And while the majority of domestic violence victims are women, tonight we're diving deeper into cases where men are the victims. It's rare, but it does happen, and sometimes with deadly outcomes.
The knife entered Christian's chest in a downward angle to the depth of 3 inches.
Miami, a social media influencer arrested.
We are charging 26-year-old Courtney Taylor Clenny with 1 count of second-degree murder in Christian's death.
This fight in an elevator with Clenny and her boyfriend Christian Ambuseli is key evidence, along with constant noise complaints about violence.
It was a homicide.
In St. Petersburg, August 19th, Larry Jarrell is found inside the apartment he shared with his partner, Rhiannon Spicer, an eerily similar case where police say Jarrell was stabbed to death, the complaint showing that Spicer had a, quote, Google search history of, do you spend life in prison if you killed someone in self-defense?
Our advocates often have a very tough time that sometimes in abusive relationships, sometimes it happens within a 24-hour period that we'll get both partners in the relationship that reach out to us for help.
Christine Meister is the outreach program manager at the Spring of Tampa Bay. She did not comment on these 2 specific cases, but spoke in general about what she's experienced when it comes to domestic violence involving men as victims.
People look at men when they're the victims and they make the assumption that the man did something wrong. And there's a reason why they were the victim of domestic violence. Is that accurate?
So I think a lot of times when men are victims, they face additional biases, and a lot of that has to do with gender norms. Men have this expectation to be tough, to be more dominant in that relationship. And so when a man comes forward and says, no, this is what I'm experiencing in my relationship, I don't feel safe in this relationship, my partner is abusing me, or I have this coercive control, other people think, well, then you must not be a man. Our advocates have that very tough time of, let's put gender aside and really take a look at what is happening in this relationship.
Documents show Spicer was arrested in November 2021 for domestic violence, again just weeks before Jarrell was found dead. No contact orders were also in place. In February, court records show that Jarrell was also arrested for domestic violence and pleaded no contest. The couple had 3 children together, and since Spicer's arrest, police still have more questions than answers, Spicer invoking her right to remain silent.
Every act of violence in a relationship is always an act of domestic violence. Those words, domestic violence, should have a decidedly ugly feel to them.
Back in Miami, authorities say they found no evidence to Clenny's claim that Ambuseli was the aggressor.
There's no physical evidence that led us to believe that she was actually physically harmed in any way.
No matter what, everyone agrees someone should or could have done something to stop it.
Men are often, unfortunately, unwilling to come forward as victims of domestic violence, or of intimate violence, that is sometimes called. The sequence of domestic violence events can be broken.
When violence discussions are had, rarely are men the subject, as the dominance by feminism has translated into the exclusive focus on female victims. However, there are worrying statistics on male victimization that you would hardly see on media. For instance, 1 in 3 men has experienced either physical or sexual violence or stalking by an intimate partner at some point in their lives, with more than half of this abuse happening before the age of 25. 25% of men experience some form of contact violence at some point in their lives, with 1 in 14 being victims of made to penetrate. 1 in 38 men have experienced attempted or completed rape, with 75% of the victims reporting the abuse happening by the age of 25. Worth pointing out is the fact that 87% of male rape victims report male perpetrators, but 79% of made to penetrate victims reporting female-only offenders. Also, 82% of male sexual coercion victims report female-only perpetrators, as well as 53% of unwanted sexual contact against men being reported to be perpetrated by females. 97% of men who experience stalking, physical violence, and rape by an intimate partner report female perpetrators. 1 in 17 men are victims of stalking, with the stalking happening before age 25. Men report more suspicions of being spied on, more monitoring and financial control, more destruction of property, more restrictions from personal devices, and more deprivation of food. More men also report doing nothing about being coerced than women.